In this video, we are looking into the paper 1 scope of the mathematical literacy paper 1 grade 12. We are going to go through each topic using the 2024 questions from the preparatory papers, particularly the Eastern Cape one from September 2024, and we are also going to include in there some related examples that are going to explain further every single topic that is on the scope. Let us first start by outlining every single topic that you will find in your paper 1 question paper this coming exam season as according to the ATP of this year. So in question 1, you're going to have 20% level 1 questions. I will explain further what those are. In question 2, you have finance. In question 3, you have data handling. In question 4 and 5, we call this the integrated question, meaning they are a mix of topics. It's going to mix finance, data handling, and then also include probability as part of those questions. So they're just going to be integrated. So let's go back to the question 1. What is 20% level 1 questions? This is level 1 questions that are going to weigh 20% of your paper, and these are the basic what we call basic mathematical calculations that you need to be able to do. We assume that should be part of your prior accumulated knowledge, but I know that for some students it really is not, so it is worth practicing them because they are going to be in your paper. So we are looking at things like calculating the missing value, arranging things in ascending and descending order, defining terms, writing numbers in words, and showing how amounts were calculated. So they will give you an amount and they will need you to show how did they end up with that value, and you have to show such a thing. So let's look at the Eastern Cape 2024 preparatory examination paper. In question 1, we find a 20% level question paper, and it says use annexure A to answer the following questions. Calculate the value of A. Going to annexure A, you will see where A is. Its total income plus opening balance will give you the value of A. So what is my total income? You will see in my total column, I have a last column. It says total amount are in thousands, and it says 20,187. And then for opening balance, I go to the very top and I see an opening balance of 612. Keep in mind that everything is in thousands, so at the end you will have to add the 3 zeros at the end. So we take the 20,187 plus it with the 612 of opening balance. It gives us 20,799 times 20 multiplied by 1,000 so that it becomes a full thousand. So then it becomes 20,799,200 as your final answer. The 1.4, skipping to 1.1.4 because it's still calculating the value of B, so that we deal with everything that needs you to calculate missing values. So 1.1.4 also wants you to calculate the value of B. So we are going to go back to annexure A and look for where B is. So B is in our total amount in thousands. You can see that there is B in this row of tokens. So we are just trying to find out how can I find the value of B. So obviously I have totals at the bottom, and the total is everything added together will give me that total. So to get that value, what the simplest thing I can do would be to take my total and minus everything, and what's left will be B. So my total is 19,028. I will minus 1,000, minus 9,000, minus 288, minus 250 minus 2,890, and it gives me 5.5. Again, remembering that everything is in thousands, so you multiply that by 1,000 and it gives you the actual value, which is 5,500,000. Another type of question that we had on our scope for question 1 is questions that ask you to define certain terms, especially financial terms. You are going to meet a lot of questions that ask you to define financial terms, so make sure that you familiarize yourself. In 1.1.2, it says define the term opening balance. So the answer, what is opening balance? Opening balance is the amount of money in an account at the beginning of the period. It's easier to just say period because some accounts use months, some accounts use years. You will never know what it is an opening balance of. If it's of a loan, then it's for a loan period, so it could be a couple of years. So just say at the beginning of a period. And then in question 1.1.3, it says show how the income of 6,602.70 was calculated. This is again that type of question that we said they are going to ask you that they have calculated something. Show us how they calculated that amount. So we see that in our next A that amount is an amount of total for October amounts. So we are just trying to say, to show by calculation, how did they get to that amount? Obviously, you know that they added everything on the account on the column of October amounts. So you showing is just you writing all of those amounts down and showing that at the end they add to that total. So you start with the 4,102 plus the 500 plus the 1,000 plus the 1,000. You put it in your calculator. It gives you 6,602.70. And then also remembering that again, these things are in thousands. So you have to convert your final answer to 1,000 by multiplying with 8,000, and it's going to be 6,602,700. In 1.1.5, they say write down the total expenditure in words. This is another type of common question when it comes to the 20% level 1 questions. You need to know how to write numbers in words. This question particularly tests spelling and that you are writing down the correct amount. So you see that it's the total amount at the bottom of 19,028 rands. So writing it correctly or spelling it correctly as a full figure, because remember those amounts are supposed to be in their thousands. So the first thing that you do is take that amount and multiply it with 1,000. So then it gives you 19,028,000. So then you write that one in words now. It's 19,028,000 rands. It's money, also include the rands in there because you don't want to miss out that. Be careful, some questions it would be talking about a population, so it would be a number of people, so it's not always going to be money, but in essence it's still testing the same thing. We are testing the spelling and that you have identified the correct amount that they were looking for, so the correct total in this case. And then in the last question, 1.1.6 wants you to determine the difference between the maximum and the minimum October expenditure. So we are going to go to the October column and look for what is the maximum amount and what is the maximum amount, and we are looking for their difference. Now we are in the October column. You will see that in October column we have wages for 3,000 and then the minimum of 288 for envelopes. So there's two amounts. You are going to calculate their difference. What is a difference? In mathematics, difference just means subtraction. So anytime a question says give the difference of, it means subtract the two amounts. So you take 3,000 minus 288 and it gives you 2,712 as your final answer. Question 2, we are dealing with finance and we are looking at different types of topics that fall under the main topic of finance, and that is taxable income, value-added tax, tariff systems, exchange rates, and investments. So in investments, we are looking at your compound and simple interest, and also we are also a variation of that could also be a loan. So if you don't have an investment, you might have a loan dealing with a simple or a compound interest. So looking at a question of finance, in question 2 of the same paper that we had, it says Pi Sese received her employee income certificate information for the financial year ending 2023-02 2, this information is on Annexure B. Some information has been omitted. Use Annexure B to answer the questions that follow. 2.1.1 wants you to write down the annual taxable payment that Pi says he received. So when we are looking at the annual taxable income, we are looking at the amount source code. It says 30,533. We know that it's an annual amount because it's code 3605, and they tell us at the source codes there that 3605 is an annual payment. So the answer to 2.1.1 is simply 30,533. In 2.1.2, it says calculate the monthly medical aid tax credit fees. So we are going to go back to our information in Annexure B and look for the monthly medical aid credit fees. Now you will notice everything in Annexure B is on an annual basis, like we did in the previous question. So when we look at the medical scheme fees tax credit there, it says that it is 4,164. We can assume that that amount is an annual amount, and since the question is looking for a monthly fee, we are going to take that amount of 4,164 and divide it by 12 so that we can get our monthly fee of 347 rands. Be careful of such things, that when you read your Annexure B, is everything in annual or is it monthly? Because sometimes they give you monthly, they will need you to annualize it. Sometimes they give you annual, they need you to give them a monthly amount. So in one case you will multiply by 12, in another case you will divide by 12. In 2.1.3 it says Pi contributed 36.5% to her pension fund from 1 March 2023 to 30 September 2023. Determine the average monthly contribution for the remainder of the financial year. The contribution is quoted 4001 and it's 86,238, and I'm going to look for 36.5% of that, and by multiplication, and it gives me 31,475.87. Now they said I'm looking for an average over the remaining months. Now at this point it is the 30th of September. My financial year ends in February, so that's 5 months remaining. So divide by 5 and I get 6,295.37 cents. In 2.2 they say Joy needs a laptop which costs 5,999 rands. She asked for money from her sister who lives in the United States of America. The exchange rate is as follows: 1 rand is equals to 5 cents of US dollars. The first question wants you to explain the term exchange rate, and the second question, which is 2.2.2, wants you to know which one is a stronger currency between the rand and the dollar. It says, was the ZAR stronger or weaker than the US dollar? So we are going to answer those two questions at once. Now, this is a topic of exchange rate. The first thing we are explaining a term exchange rate. The second one is determining which of the two amounts is weaker. So what is an exchange rate? Exchange rate is the value of one currency relative to the value of another currency. So again, financial terms, you are going to be asked time and time again to define them. And then the second question wanted to know, was the rand weaker or stronger than the US dollar at that time? You looking at that exchange rate. Obviously it was weaker, because for 1 rand you were only getting 5 cents in US dollars. In 2.2.3 it says Joy's sister gave her 300 US dollars to buy a laptop. She stated that the money would be enough to purchase the laptop. Verify showing all calculations if Joy's sister is correct. Now to verify this, we need to know, when you convert 300 US dollars, is it going to give you 999 or more? If it does, then she's correct. If it doesn't, then she's not correct. So we take 300 US dollars we divide it by 5 cents, and it gives us exactly 6,000 rands. And that is exactly what we needed to buy the laptop, because the laptop is 5,999, which is similarly 6,000. So her sister is correct. The only way she would have not been correct is if she would have came under, meaning would have been less than 599. In 2.3, it says Mrs. Teddy went to check the maturity value towards her retirement annuity. So this is the topic of investments now. As she will be turning 55 in 4 months' time, she expected to receive her lump sum when she turns 55. The sales lady informed her that the maturity value is 334,159, and she will receive 1/3 of this lump sum. This is because, as from 2017, South African law stated that if a lump sum exceeded 247,500, a person will receive 1/3 of the total lump sum and thereafter will receive equal installment. Mrs. Teddy decided to invest the 1/3 of her lump sum at 9% per annum, compounded half yearly for 2 years. 2.3.1 says calculate the amount Mrs. Teddy will receive when she turns 55 years old. Now, we know that her total investment is 334,159, and because it's above the 247, she's going to receive 1/3 of that. So you will multiply with 1/3, and it gives you 111,338 and 33 cents. It's as simple as that. In 2.3.2, it says Mrs. Teddy says that the interest she will receive after 2 years is 24,500. Verify showing all calculation that her statement is valid. Now we are talking about that last sentence of Mrs. Teddy decided to invest 1/3 of the amount. So that amount she's going to receive, she's going to invest it at 9% per annum, compounded half yearly. So we are trying to see what at the end of the 2 years she will receive that amount. So what we know is that it is compounded half yearly. So the interest of 9%, since it's per annum, we're going to have to divide it by 2, and it gives us 4.5. And because again compounded half yearly, the 2 years period is going to be multiplied by 2, and it's going to give us 4 periods. What we are investing is the amount that we have just calculated in the previous question, which was 111,386 rands and 33 cents. So this is going to become our capital, meaning our principal starting point. So we are going to have 4 periods. The first period starts with that amount of 111,000. We are going to multiply it with 4.5%, and it's going to give us an interest of 5,012 rands and 38 cents. And then we are going to take the interest, add it back to the principal of 111,386, and it's going to give us a total of 116,398,7185. We're not rounding off yet because it's going to mess us up. We're going to round off only at the very end. And then in the second period, we start with the end of the first period, which was 116,398, and then 7185, multiply again with 4.5%, and it's going to give us the interest of 5,237,9421. We are going to add that back to the principal of 116, and it gives us 121,636,6570. Take that balance to the third period now. Continue the process as you did in period 1 and 2. Get the interest, add the interest to the principal, and then take the principal to the fourth period. At the end of it all, you will have a balance after the fourth period of 132,830 and 27 cents. Then the interest end, you are going to take the balance at the end of the fourth period and minus that amount that we started with of 111,386,33, and you minus them together, you will see the interest, which is 21,443.94. her statement is incorrect because her amount was higher than this. In question 3, we are looking at data handling. So you're going to be calculating your mean, calculating your range, calculating interquartile range, determining mode and median, doing your Bosque and Whisker plot, and doing a 5-point summary. We are going to get into what is it that a 5-point summary looks for. So, but all of these things, they're the things that you need to be able to make sure that when you say you have covered the topic of data handling, you have at least covered these things because they are sure to be there. So when we are looking at a 5-point summary, we are talking about from a data set that you are being given, are you able to identify what is the minimum value, what is the lower quartile, what is the second quartile, what is the upper quartile, and what is the maximum value. So minimum and maximum are straightforward, they self-explain themselves. The second quartile, meaning number 3, is actually the same thing as a median, so you're not worried about that. The only thing that can worry you would be the lower quartile and the upper quartile. In a Bosque and Whisker plot, a Bosque and Whisker plot actually plots out the 5-point summary. You will see that you have a minimum, you have Q1, that's the lower quartile, you have Q2, that's the second quartile, Q3 is the third quartile, and then the maximum value. So if I'm given a Bosque and Whisker plot that looks like this, it usually goes with that number line as you see in the motto at the bottom. So my minimum, you will see that line is in alignment with the number 1. So the minimum of this data would be 1 and the maximum would be 18. Q1 would be 6, Q2 would be 12, meaning it's also the median, and then Q3 would be 15. That's how we read a Bosque and Whisker plot. So let's look at a question from our question paper. In question 3, we have the Minister of Basic Education in her address stated that there has been a significant improvement in the performance of subject except a few. Table 2 below presents the subject with high enrollment. Improvement was noted in all subjects except history and mathematical literacy. So we have our table there. It says comparison of performance in subjects 2022 and 2023. We have subject description 2022, 2023, and the difference in percentages from 2022 to 2023. We have all the list of subjects except a few things that are missing. A and B are missing. I'm sure there will be a question that wants us to calculate that. As you see in 3.1.1, it says calculate the value of A. So when we go back to our information, we are going to pay attention as to what is A and how can we use the information that we have been given to calculate that value. So this is data handling mixed with that level 20% level 1. So A, you will see it's the difference in the 2022 results for mathematics. In 2022 it was 85.7. In 2023 it's 82.3. So to calculate A, we are going to say take the year that comes first, 2022, and minus the year that comes after, 2023, and it gives us a negative 3.4%. In 3.1.2, it says which subject had the largest percentage decrease between 2022 and 2023. So we are saying it used to be higher in 2022, but now in 2023 it's less. So we're going to look at our information and look for one that had a decrease. Some of them I don't even have to look at them. For example, accounting, when you look at it, it used to be 75, it increased to 76. So that's not a decrease. I'm looking for one that has a decrease. Look at mathematics, mathematical literacy. It used to be 85.7 and now it is 82.3. So that is a significant decrease. So our answer is mathematical literacy. We are looking for a decrease. So be careful of that. Not all of them are decreases. And when you find the ones that are decreases, you're going to look for the largest one. In 3.1.3, it says calculate the range of the differences in percentages. So we are going to look at the column of differences, and then we are going to find the highest one, meaning the maximum, and the minimum and find their range. So when you are in the column of differences of percentages, that is the last column, you will see that we have an 8.5 of mathematics, and the lowest we have A at minus 3.4. So remember, we're looking for a minimum of all of them including A, and when we calculated A, we found out that A is minus 3.4. That would be lower than even the 0.5 of history. So the highest 8.5 minus open bracket minus 3.4 close bracket. The minus and the minus will give me a plus. So 8.5 plus 3.4% will in total give me 11.9. If you don't put the bracket before you do the minus 3.4, it's going to give you a totally different amount. It needs to be minus minus so that it can turn into a positive. In 3.1.4, it says the mean percentage of the 2023 performance in all subjects is 78.52%. Determine the value of B using all 10 subjects. So they have told me the mean, meaning they have calculated the mean, but what I don't have is the value of B, and I know that there's 10 subjects. So I'm going to use the formula of mean to calculate the value of B. So if you can see that if I was given B, to calculate my mean, I was going to add everything together, starting with 76.9 plus 80.5 and so forth, and then divide everything by 10 because we have 10 subjects there. But I don't have B, so I'm trying to use that same formula that says the sum of all values all over the number of values is going to give me my mean. So when I substitute, the mean has already been given to me. It's 78.2%. It is equals to everything else that I add together gives me 710.2 plus B, because I don't know what the value of B is. The number of all values is 10 because remember I had 10 subjects, and then from there I'm going to do a cross multiplication where on one side I'm going to have 710.2 plus B, and then on the other side of the equals to, I'm going to take the 78.2, that is my mean, and multiply it by 10, which is the number of subjects. Then I'm going to take the 710 to the side of the 78.2 times 10, which by the way 72 times 10 will give me 782%, and then from it I'm going to take the 710 and take it to the other side. Because the 710 is positive, when it goes to the other side it becomes a minus 710. So then on this side I'm going to be left with B alone. So then my statement becomes B is equals to 782, which I got from 78.2 times 10 and minus the 710, and then B is 71.3. In question 4 and question 5, we are looking at an integrated question, which is our mix of question, and to that mix we are also going to get probabilities. So when we look at our mix, you'll see we have a mix of finance and probability. Can be a possibility where you have a finance question that has probability, a data handling question that has finance, a probability question that also has data handling. So it just depends on the variations of questions you will do. The September question paper that we were just looking at, they started their integration early in question 3, but you can rest assured that for your final it will be in question 4 and 5. So let's look at an example of a question that is an data handling question, as we were doing with our question 3, but the last question, which is 3.1.5, is a probability question. It says write the probability of randomly selecting a subject with a decrease in percentage as a decimal. So again, you are going to look at our information and look at for subjects that had a decrease. We know that there was history, which is a minus 0.5, and our mathematical literacy that we calculated to be minus 3.4. Those are the two subjects that had a decrease. And then how many subjects do we have? We know that in total we have 10 subjects. So the formula for probability, we say a probability of an event is equals to a favorable outcome, meaning the outcomes that I'm looking for, in this case the decreases all over the total possible outcomes, meaning the total number of subjects that are there. So substitution, probability of what is my event. The event is subject with a decrease. How many are my favorable outcomes? There's 2 of them. Only 2 of them had a decrease all over 10. And then you punch it in your calculator at 0.2. Question 5, 5.1. The water account Mrs. Wales received from Nando municipality is provided below. This is a tariff system question. We see the consumption details on the 15th of the 12th month 2023 is 32 kiloliters. So we are going to say that for that month she consumed 32 kiloliters, and these are the rates in kiloliters that she used with tariffs including VAT, and also keeping in mind that there is also a sanitation of 59 rand 96 cents that is also going to be charged for that month. And then we also have previous month's consumptions. 5.1.1 wants you to calculate the amount charged for water including VAT that Mrs. Wales used in December. So this is a VAT and tariff system question, which is in the topic of finances. 1.2 says calculate the median tariff per kiloliter. So this one mixes the finance question with data handling. So going back to 5.1.1, we are calculating our tariff system, starting with the first kiloliters at 18 rands 12 cents. You multiply the 2 amounts together, they give you 108. And then you go to the second row of 9 kiloliters at 29 rands 26. You multiply them together and they give you an answer. You keep doing this until you can account for the full 32 kiloliters that you used for that year. And then in the end you will have used 1,011.80 cents. Remember, there was also a charge for sanitation at 59 rands and 96 cents. So you're going to add it and it brings your total to 1,071.76. Don't forget VAT. Include VAT with a fraction 115 over 100 and it gives you 1,232.52 cents. 5.1.2 wants you to calculate the median tariffs per kiloliter. So basically we are looking for the median of the price of the tariff per kiloliter. So you're going to go to the tariff column, the one that has the amounts in rands, and you're going to look for the one that is in the middle. Don't include the sanitation. We are looking for tariffs per kiloliter. So they start with 18 rands and 12 cents and they end with 45 rands and 52 cents. So there's 2 of them, meaning that in the middle you are going to land between 29 rands 26 cents and 36 rands and 58 cents. So you are going to use those 2 numbers that are in the middle to determine your median. How do you do that? You take the 29 rands 26 cents plus it with the 36 rands and 58 cents and you divide them by 2 and it gives you your median as 32 rands and 92 cents. Anytime you have a data that is even numbered, the ones in the middle is always going to be 2 numbers. So what you're going to do is average them, plus them together and divide them by 2, and that's how you do it every time. To have YouTube recommend you more of my videos, be sure to click the like button and subscribe to the channel, and if you have any questions, leave them in the comment section below.